spend reduction in labor management and freight consolidation. Joining us today to speak about that, Jeff Clark, Executive Vice President at ODW Logistics. Jeff, it's great to see you once again. Welcome.
Thank you, Russell. Appreciate being here.
Jeff, I'm sure that when people come to you and say, look, labor management is clearly something I'm interested in, but I need, quite frankly, for you to bring my costs down. What can you do for me? Well, pretend I'm that customer. Walk me through that. What are you going to tell me?
Clients are looking for lower costs. They're finding ways to be sure that what they pay for, they're getting their value proposition. So we work really hard to give them good information about how we measure each associate from a productivity standpoint, from time that they spend on the floor actually doing work, to training them, how we make sure they're most effective.
Well, speaking of training, let's talk about something that's always topmost right now in the minds of supply chain managers and logisticians: artificial intelligence. Does that come into the equation here in any kind of way?
Yeah, it does. So we're using tools today that allow us, after an associate let's work for an hour picking orders or what have you, they get some AI information back that says, here's some things did you know you did. So it makes some suggestions that the supervisor or the lead associate can work with that individual and know how they either scanned a product or how they picked a product that maybe wasn't the most efficient way. And it gives them in an encouraging way. It's not meant to degrade them at all. It's meant to really kind of say, if you did this, you will be more effective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of a relationship, with your labor force, question comes up about break time. And I'm a little concerned, that maybe people are taking advantage of that. I need to optimize that situation. What are my obligations? I really don't know. Walk me through there. What do I need to know?
Yeah, so those are key times. How much time you use starting up a shift, how much time you have between breaks or restrooms. So we measure all that. And we will review that with associates. There are reasonable standards that you can really outline that make good sense, that you're not, that are acceptable. But we want to make sure that you're managing the exceptions, and that if folks are really not in a productive environment, why aren't they? What things can we do to put them in a more productive environment? We make sure that we outline that. You're not going to put them consistently in a bad light, but if they're really not being, responsive, you're going to know that. Mm-hmm. And then you can manage that. You can make a decision about what the right process is next.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the labor management system itself. I don't have one in my company right now. I gather that I need to put one in. Let's talk about implementation. Price point, perhaps. Is this going to break the bank? I mean, can I afford this? Walk me through what I need to know.
Okay, so we buy a tool that layers on our WMS. So it's a tool specific for labor management, and we found it very reasonably priced. So it's been effective by the number of users in a facility, so you can outline that well for any of your customers to understand that piece, and it provides really good reports back. So those things about the investment, I would tell you the most important part is about the level of training that we've had to support to make sure it's consistent, and we use it, on a daily basis the same way.
Mm-hmm. I want to turn to freight consolidation because I have concerns there about spend management, spend reduction, one hopes. One of my questions is, if I'm a retailer and I'm coming to you, I want to know who the other retailers are that you are working with. And I guess my question is, why do I really need to know that? What's important about that?
The retailers really want to make sure that if you can take freight from wherever you're bringing it from and bring it in truckload versus an LTL, it's less deliveries. It's more consistent. They know that your reliability and who you are from a standards and statement standpoint. So the retailers want to have that regular occurrence that they can have known, work with their pool captains or work with some of that you're going to hit key delivery points. They can measure you on that so that they know who you are. They can provide information, and then you can work really on key things that are, correctable to make it much more efficient for them.
Mm-hmm. Now talk about correctable and talking about making things more efficient. I'm building loads now, but walk me through that. Maybe I'm not maybe that's not at an optimal level right now. Maybe I'm losing some money there. So what do I need to know? How do I need to proceed?
So we found a lot of our customers not great at load building themselves. They think that's something they have to do, but that's something that as a provider, we're going to help them outline. We'll walk them through that. We'll show how we're going to build better loads for the retailer, where they're going to take their freight and marry it with other customers' freight and deliver a full truckload as opposed to a less than truckload capacity. And we're also going to work really to make sure that the right weights throughout the truck are measured so you can maximize that truck, and it's better for the retailer from an unloading standpoint.
Well, let me ask you this, Jeff. Typically, how long is that implementation or that training period, that advisory period that you're talking about, last?
But we're going to work day one on some of those pieces, but we learn a lot about that customer's freight that we've worked with others on and get better every week. So you get a really good understanding. You can start asking questions that says, could be the height of the pallet, could be the weight to make it much more efficient, could be the delivery date to drive cost efficiency. So we'll make suggestions saying, have you thought of this? And this is something that is under consideration. All really going back to saying, how do we deliver freight more effectively to your retailer?
Look, I've been in the business a while. I know about KPIs. I know about chargebacks, but I want to know if I know what I don't know. So talk to me about that and walk me through that. What is it that I need to be aware of if I'm going to be managing my costs efficiently? What do you say?
Well, we think about it as a couple-day process. Don't think of it as a single event would be the first thing. A lot of times the customer has to leave today because it's got to be there on X day, and say, if you give us information earlier, we're going to plan further away and have higher success. So we'll think about it not day to day, but over, let's say, a course of a couple days. So that'd be one comment. Second would be flexibility. If we really build confidence with that retailer, they're going to give some flexibility to you based on demonstrating capacity, how we've worked on a consistent basis to make sure to comply with their things. That helps you drive your cost. And it really, whether you're measuring a cost per pound basis or however you want to do it, so we're going to drive more loads into that retailer at a higher capacity.
You know, Jeff, based on what you've been telling us thus far, it seems like you have a really comprehensive list of services that you can extend to this hypothetical customer. With that in mind, still somebody out there may not be entirely familiar with ODW Logistics and just what you do. So talk about the focus of the company for just a moment.
Yeah, so we work really hard to work for folks that would put the freight for them in inventory, manage that inventory, as well as do their outbound transportation management to the retailer. We manage both parts together. One group, one contact, one group of folks working with a common goal for the customer. That'd be unique. So that really helps with less communication, more consistent, on delivery of product to the client. We can react differently. So if there's a challenge on a given day that, hey, we need to put more resources or change something, we have flexibility there. And that's where the learning comes in about certain cutoff times that become really important. Things about you could talk to a key leader about, if we did this, what happens? And I think we learn that over a period of time, and we really provide good education back to make the right decision for that customer.
Well, as I say, a good menu of services, no doubt about that. Jeff, I know you're busy here at the conference, but you found time to speak with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Russell. Appreciate the time today.
Jeff Clark, ODW Logistics, speaking with us today about reducing spend in your labor management operations and in your freight consolidation. Thanks for watching.